Welcome back to the Self-Esteem and Confidence Mindset podcast with me, Johnny Pardo. And today I welcome my friend Tiffany to the show. I'm looking forward to this conversation, as I know she's got a great story and she's a great character to talk to. So just a quick introduction to Tiffany. So Tiffany is the creator and host of Rooted and Roaming, a podcast and community space for those navigating life's in-between seasons where clarity hasn't landed, but something sacred is unfolding. After years of living in high functioning autopilot and using perfectionism and alcohol to cope, she began a deep personal unraveling that led to healing, sobriety, and self reclamation. Now she shares her journey with raw honesty, inviting others to give themselves permission to pause, feel, and rebuild from the inside out. Tiffany speaks from the middle of the process, not the end, and creates space for others to do the same. Welcome to the show today, Tiffany. Glad to have you on board. So obviously shared a little bit of your journey there, and what you've done, and you're out there expressing. Yeah, what kind of inspired you to get out there and start creating a podcast and a space for others?
So I, to be honest, I have never had a desire to create a podcast. It it just hit me one day. I have in this in between space that I'm in. I was at work. I had this name rooted in roaming, and I had no idea what it was supposed to be about or anything. I just really loved the ring to it, and I ended up going to Spain and having such an incredible experience there that when I got back home, it hit me that I get to share the word of unlearning, of redefining, of growing, healing, transformation, and it had to be by a podcast. And I still cannot explain where I got it from. People would maybe say God, the universe, whatever you believe in. It just hit me. And I kind of fought with it a little because I was like, I have no desire to do this. I've never, like, I enjoy listening to podcasts, yet um, it was it was a back and forth conversation. And then finally I said, let's do this. I don't know where it's gonna go. And it's been so incredible thus far.
Oh, amazing. And it's great to hear, your journey of getting out there and sharing your voice and interviewing other people. Had the pleasure of listening to your episodes, and yeah, you getting out there and just being who you are and inspiring others to do the same as well, which is amazing. So I know we just mentioned about perfectionism. That was something you've been working through, it sounds like, and I know, having known you, it's something you've been working through. Um, yeah, like what is perfectionism for you, and like how did it kind of like show up in your life? I mean, and how have you worked through it?
So a perfectionism for me, it is it's having everything in order. Everything is correct, right. Well, at least for me, I have grown up thinking there's like a right or wrong way of doing things. And also like in my childhood, I felt like if I was just perfect, then maybe things would be different. Maybe things would feel different. It was all about creating this environment of yearning and wanting it to be loved, basically. And I I stayed in it. I still to this day, there's still times where it shows its head of like things have to be perfect. Why don't you have things figured out? Um, I can't be visible because it's not perfect. And to just, it's, as you asked me to define perfection, like, I don't know. It's not I'm unsure of how to define it, but I know how it feels.
Mm.
And it's just this uneasiness. It's like this thing pulling at me, keeping me from opening the door of just being free from it. And and how I have gotten out of that is slowly surrendering and whatever that looks like. It would be instead of recording an episode, like my first episode, I think I recorded it, I want to say 20 times. And then the 21st time, or the like that 21, I was like, this is enough's enough. I do not have to be perfect in this. It's the first episode, for crying out loud.
Mm.
And it just happened. And ever since then, I go in with that. I just get to do it. I just get to go through it. And at the end of the day, it's perfectly imperfect. And that's kind of how I've looked at it. Like everything is perfectly imperfect, how it should align. And that's how I maneuver through it. And when it starts to show its ugly head and I've recorded something, multiple times, or I'm sitting here in my head of like, oh, what are people going to think? I just kind of pause because that pause helps me create a different story in my head, if that makes sense.
Mm. So it sounds like bringing awareness to what's going on to this kind of like autopilot, as I kind of read out in your bio, when I was introducing you and you mentioned it something. It's becoming aware of that like autopilot and, well, what's actually going
Yes.
on here, and then making a different decision and maybe a different action from it.
Yes.
Mm.
Yes, exactly like that.
Oh wow, no, I love that because I know a lot of people struggle with what they call like perfectionism, and it's a common thing, and it's like, I'm not gonna start, but it sounds like you broke through it, 20 times, but the 21st you went, enough is enough, and yeah.
And it still shows up like it goes back to the root of it all of not being good enough.
Mm,
And and how I get to look at that and heal that to where, and I think that was probably another redefining moment would be seeing that that perfectionism comes from that and
mm,
allowing myself to heal that part of me and still healing that part of me of I am worthy and I am enough and that I get to be out there in my authentic way and I don't have to put on this mask or this front to be someone else, to be this perfect individual, to create relationships, to have love and to have that worthiness.
just being coming back to your authentic self, and yeah, you don't need something else outside of you. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, it's a lesson I've had to learn and still learning as well. So I'm with you on that,
Aren't we all?
aren't we all? Yeah,
Yes.
just on that. You mentioned about like you've been doing like some healing work on that. And yeah, on a healing journey, we were talking earlier, very much of mine as well. Yeah, for you, like this healing journey, what is there anything that's really helped you on your healing journey?
It's it's been so many different things.
Mm,
Like you name it, I've possibly tried it for the most part. I have done trainings, workshops, masterminds, psilocybin journeys. I have, oh gosh, I've done my own work of just sitting with myself. I've done Reiki, psychic, like anything and everything. I feel like I have kind of tapped into just to go on this journey. And it all started with it all started with awareness of I was extremely unhappy. I would say about, oh gosh, maybe 4 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, I was at a job that I absolutely hated. Yet it made me the money, so much money that I could do and have whatever I wanted. And but I was miserable and I went out of my way to make other people miserable just to make myself feel good. And once like the pandemic was a blessing for me because it took me out of that environment and obviously we were all home. So just being home, being my authentic self in my house and creating a different space to when I went back to that job, that's where I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so unhappy." Like I would sit in a parking garage crying before I had to go to work because I did not want to go to work. And when I left that because I chose happiness over the money, over anything else, it was it was powerful. And then also choosing it because was treating, back then it would be my boyfriend. Now he's my fiance, but treating him in a way that he never deserved. And we still kind of well, we still talk about it of like how did he put up with me? Like it was just I recognized that person back then, and she was just in so much pain. And then from there, it's like I said, the awareness, and then being put in a different environment. I ended up going into another job where the owners of that job, the owners of that place, they were all about mental health, being the best version of yourself. They would come in on a daily saying, "I appreciate you. Thank you for what you do for this restaurant." And at first I thought it was bullshit. Like I was like, this isn't true. These people are fake. Like, yet it didn't stop. And then when I went to one of their trainings that they had, it just clicked. I saw the passion they had behind that, and I saw the like truly into them to where I was like, "Oh my gosh, they really are serious about appreciating me, about, loving me, about mental health," and brought people in actually to the restaurant to be able to do certain modalities. And that's how I met Gretchen, who is a Reiki healer and a self-love coach. And I ended up getting connected with her. And then from there, the rest is history. It was just one thing after
Mm.
another of, okay, what do I get to do next? What do I get to invest in next? Um, and then it was loving myself, knowing that I was worthy, yet the head and the heart didn't align. Like I knew it, yet I didn't feel it yet. And then I had the opportunity to go to a training out in Utah. It was more of an experience. Um, and I got to be surrounded with 60 people, and we went through hell and back together to work on ourselves. And that's where, yeah, it just kept going from there.
Wow, that's quite a journey. And yeah, going from like a tough job, which was giving you the money, but making you not feel your best, if that's maybe an understatement, and then finding a new role, which led you onto all these things, the self discovery and who you are, and the Reiki, of course, which sounds like a very powerful modality that I've still got to take up. It sounds really, really cool on that side of things. I know, Tiffany, you've also had quite a spell of sobriety as well, and you've been like sober, not having alcohol. Was it the job was making you miserable and wanting to drink, and how did you become sober? Because I know a lot of people don't, unfortunately, or aren't at that stage of getting away from the alcohol. So just wondered if you had any guidance on that.
Yeah, so I started drinking when I was 18. Um, and at first it was just, the casual high school party
Mm,
and then college party. Yet it quickly turned into so much more because I was feeling so much pain. There was so much sadness that I was running from.
mm,
Um, you know, Still like back then it was the unworthiness, the not enough, and doing anything and everything to seek that out, to feel that love, that validation. And I started to create this image in my head, or this belief in my head, that people loved me more when I drank because of just like little comments, when you hear like little comments of like, "You're so much fun," when you like, it was. you're so much fun. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Just you're a blast. I love that when you're do this, this, and this, and you're so outgoing when you are letting loose, or just all these things that made me think that I had to have alcohol in my life to be accepted, to be loved, to be the person that I wasn't when I was sober. And so I've tried multiple times to stop drinking, and I always end up going back because I did not know who I was without the alcohol. And then that inner critic in my head would be just ripping me another one of, you're no fun. You're not, no one will like you. No one will love you. You're not enough. Like, just go back. And I would always go back. And even when I started this healing, it wasn't just that job that I disliked. Like, I've always been that alcoholic since I can remember. And it was when I don't I want to say kind of started with Gretchen, because Gretchen is sober, and yet she never talked about me stopping. Like, I would tell her about some of my crazy moments drinking, and she would just listen, and then we would get into our own thing. Yet when you surround yourself with people that are in that healthy state of like sobriety, or not doing certain things you don't want to do anymore, when you're surrounded by the people doing the work, it was it was easier to go that way. But the life altering thing was when we were going out on, it was an employee appreciation, and we were all having so much fun. We went out, we got intoxicated, and came home and had a fight with my significant other. And I couldn't even tell you what it was about. Neither of us remember what it was about. It just, we ended up getting into a fight. I ended up leaving the house, driving to a hotel, not sure how I got there. Um, Ended up spending the majority of the night getting sick, and then having to open up the restaurant the next day and be like this perfect girl, again. And that was the tipping point. That was a point of like, enough's enough. I don't want to be this individual anymore. This individual,
Mm.
even though I do not know who I am yet, without it, I will figure it out. And oh my gosh, still to this day, I would say it's easier. But even last year, I was still figuring out who I was without alcohol, because I become so much more reserved and quiet, and not putting myself out there because I'm so scared of being judged, and thinking that somebody's gonna look down on me because I'm not being perfect. And there's been multiple times I've wanted to go back and pick up that drink. Like when I started to get into these healing communities, I didn't know how to act. I didn't know anything. And I remember one night, I was sitting at a bar, or like we were networking at a bar, and I was so uncomfortable, and just sitting at the bar and thinking to myself, just one shot. It'll just loosen things up. Like, my inner critic protecting me from this uncomfortable feeling, just one shot, it'll loosen things up. You'll be able to talk to people, and maybe do two, three at the most, like that's what I was contemplating. And even messaging my significant other about, I think I'm going to do this, like I don't know. Yet I chose not to. And as soon as I made that decision, somebody came up, two people came up, and the rest is history. It was the best weekend I had ever. And I didn't need alcohol for it. And so,
Mm.
for people out there that are trying to navigate, or I don't want to say trying, but that are navigating this area of whether to quit drinking, or should they quit drinking, or even trying to go to the next day without drinking, like, you're not alone in this. And the best thing to do is, get that support system, and start doing other, like, like work within yourself, like acknowledging where it comes from, and then working on that, because that's really ultimately what keeps me from not drinking, or
Mm.
yeah, just keeps me from not drinking.
Thank you for sharing all of that and your journey through it. I've got a friend and she runs a sobriety group, and she was mentioning how many people like relapse, but it was purely
Mhm.
the ones relapsing were purely focusing on this willpower and I've not been drinking for this amount of days, but actually the pattern was they weren't doing this healing work, they weren't doing this other work, so it's purely
Mhm.
like I'm just trying to battle against an environment that's all around me, that's kind of drinking
Yeah.
around me, and that's and it's no judgment at all, and we're all in different stages of the work, but for me the work, yeah, the work's a big difference, and the people around make a big difference as well.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Especially like with the when you said willpower, it's only going to take you so far.
Mm,
You're going to be put in a situation, you're going to be triggered, or an emotion's going to come up, and whatever you're using the drinking for, it's going to surface again. And there's only so much holding out that you can do to where you're going to relapse, or you're going to have that first sip and then you're like, okay, it was just a first sip, but it's not. And maybe there are some people that can have that first sip and never do it again, or maybe have one glass and be okay and not go back. Yeah, do you want to risk that? Like, where is enough's enough? Like, that's the biggest thing. When is it enough? Enough is enough, and doing that work for yourself.
mm, love that. You touched on the and I know in your podcast, and you touched on it in when you're sharing there, the inner critic, and I know that's a huge thing for a lot of us, and it's something I'm always working with. It's a never ending process until they leave the planet, I believe. But
But
I know you talk about it a lot in your podcast, and you've kind of had an approach to working with your inner critic. Be great to hear a little bit about how you've developed your relationship with your inner critic over time, and what it is for you.
yeah, definitely. So I would say in this last year to 6 months, is when I've really been able to not do the work, but be able to navigate that inner critic, because it's just having the certain tools like in your toolbox. And yeah, like you said, the inner critic will never go away. It's going to always be there. And it's still to this day, it pops up in my head. Like before we jumped on, I was recording an episode, and, it said something to me of like, okay, you look like a fool, or whatever it said. I'm so good with like not like shutting it down for the most part. But I'm like, there's many different ways of being like, thank you. Maybe I look like a fool, but I'm okay with that. Like it's you you may think it's crazy, but it's seriously having that conversation with the inner critic of, "W- why are you saying this? Where is this going? Why is it coming up? And how are we going to navigate through this?" There are times I know some people name their inner critic. They're like, "Okay, Sally, thank you for your opinion, but that does not resonate with me," and they move on. I've tried it. It just for me, it didn't work as much, but until I just started talking to myself, you know, thank you for that, but that doesn't serve me. And and rewriting that narrative that the inner critic is telling me, like the not worthy, not good enough, looking like a fool. Um, it's just rewriting its narrative, because at the end of the day, way back when, our inner critic was there to protect us in one way or another, whether the caveman that wants to go out and do something, yet may get eaten by a tiger. I know this is so far-fetched right now, but it would tell us things to protect us.
Mm,
And with the development of humankind, and being able to have that intuition and be able to think differently and have different narratives, that inner critic is still there trying to protect, yet it's it's not protecting anymore. It's hurting.
Mm,
It's it's hurting who we're trying to be, not, it's hurting who we are becoming. And it's just changing the narrative it's saying, and it's one baby step at a time, because like I said, I've been doing this work for about like 4 years, or and it wasn't till this past year I've actually been able to sit down with my inner critic and have a conversation and be like, okay, thank you, and moving on from it. And again, I'm definitely not perfect. It does get the best of me, and that's where, like, I will sit with myself and feel what I'm feeling. And I never used to do that before. I like when I drank, I numbed it all away. And I didn't have to deal with this until I was sober, and then my inner critic would rip me apart. It would tell me how much a fool I was and what I did the night before, and now everybody's judging me. But how true was that? But I allowed it to be the truth instead of actually sitting with myself and being like, how true is that? Is that even true? Are they looking at me? Are they judging me? And maybe, but that's them. And I get to worry about me. And it's letting my inner critic know that we're going to focus on us, and we're also not going to talk negative to us. There was a friend of mine, and she put it so beautifully of like, don't talk to my friend Tiffany like that, because we don't need to talk to ourselves like that.
mm,
And it's, if you have to refer to yourself in third person, like, you wouldn't talk to a friend like this, would you? You wouldn't tell them and make judgment about them, or and make them feel so bad about themselves to where they're going to cry in a corner, or worse, do something that, that they can't take back. So,
mm. Yeah, talking like your friend or a little sister or little brother, I've heard as well. It's like, I think Jay Shetty was on about, you wouldn't, if you had like a young sibling who was like 5 years old, you wouldn't talk to them that way.
mm-hmm,
It's like to yourself. I thought that was really powerful when I heard it. Um,
mm-hmm,
like what you touched on, feeling versus numbing as well. And I know certainly for me, there's numbing. Alcohol is definitely numbing. There's many ways in the world I've discovered to sort of numb as well. Like scrolling social media
mm-hmm. Oh
can
gosh,
be a
yes.
numbing, and it's still something I catch myself out for, right? Um, but yeah, for you, for like the feeling and being with your, being with yourself, is that something you schedule in daily, or is it kind of when you need it, when things are coming up?
Oh, that's a good question. What comes to me is I do it when something comes up for sure.
Mm,
Um, and I feel like something comes up daily. It may be very small, but or extremely large. Yet, yeah, huh, I I would say it is a daily thing for sure. Um,
mm,
yeah, I like it. You kind of stumped me on that one. Yeah, it's definitely a daily thing, and it's weird for me, basically. I guess that's why I'm kind of fumbling and stumbling, because at first I look at it as it is. I just do it when I need to do it. Yet my feeling, like, I feel so much at I feel so much, and when it starts to become overwhelming, or me trying to figure out or navigating the emotions that I'm feeling, and is it just me, like, a little bit anxious, and then everything's just kind of going haywire and I need to take a minute and go sit outside, or is it something deeper? And that's where, like, it's the deeper where I really truly sit with myself. Like, I have a teddy bear. He's like, and I will go and I will grab him and I will lay on my bed and I will hold it and just kind of lay there. Or what I have been doing, which has really kind of regulated my emotions, is I've been doing my morning routine. I'm only maybe 4 days into it, yet every morning I take a mat and I go lay outside, and I sit with myself, and I put my hand on my heart and one on my stomach, and just kind of, where am I at? And usually my mind is clear then, and or some things will pop up. And so like that really helps. And it's really powerful because I love what you said about scrolling, and it just brought some, awareness to me right now of I do that a lot. Like I catch myself doing it, and I find myself in my like daily note or nightly notes, the EOD, like I scrolled again today, and tomorrow I'm going to be better at it. Yet when tomorrow comes, catch myself. I know today has been way better than the last couple of days, but you still find yourself numbing certain things. And when you do, it's like that's when you get to sit with yourself and being like, okay, why am I doing this? What am I feeling? And normally it would be, I would say, anxiousness is the one that comes up most when I start to scroll. Um, and again, even though I moved from alcohol, there's times where I notice I use food as a numbing of to feel the pleasure of eating something that maybe not the best for me. And it's just because I'm feeling a certain way. And that's what I have been navigating now is the coping mechanism I'm using as food now instead of alcohol. And it's like that self-gratification and it's just that, yeah. So, yeah, it's a daily thing because I do it daily to answer your question. And just talking through it, like I could go on and on because I'm becoming aware of certain things just as we're talking right now. Like, and it's being able to sit with that. And you can do this by journaling and or having conversations, and it just happens to be happening during the podcast.
Mm, love that. No, just having those, yeah, conversation. I know I do like voice note and something, or to myself could be like journaling. Um, and sometimes tough times, multiple times a day, more times than others. It's
hmm
like anger's coming up, and the next day it could be feeling down and all sorts. So, no, I love that how reflective you are and sitting with yourself and building that relationship with yourself and your inner critic as well to see what's coming up by not running away
hmm
from it. But yeah, like I would say to the listener, nobody gets it perfect. We all get caught into the numbing
No.
thing. You know, it's not.
Yeah.
I'm going to sit here and say I get caught into the scrolling and things like that, or maybe the foods and yeah, definitely. So it's just about the awareness and coming back. But yeah, Tiffany, great to hear so much work you've been doing yourself, and I know you share with other people on your podcast as we've been touching on as well. And you're giving a lot of value on that. I know you get some great guests on there as well, and you're going to bring on some more. But yeah, like as we kind of wrap up today, um, if there's a final point you want to share with us, or maybe recap something, please feel free to do so. But um, where can the listener find your podcast and just recap the name for us? And if they want to reach out to you, where can they find you?
hmm the one point I do want to touch on, just what you just touched on, is nobody's perfect in this area, and no one has it all together. They say they might, but behind closed doors, they're still working through stuff, and it's so powerful when you get to start this healing journey, and whatever it looks like to you, and that's what the Rooted in Roaming is, the podcast, and that's just what we talk about there right now is that in between space of starting that healing or figuring out the new career or wherever you're at in your life. It's being in what some may call the messy middle, and then navigating that and giving yourself permission and grace, and being able to differentiate the intuition to the inner critic, and then to be able to just start the healing and gaining that self-love. Um, and so, yeah, Rooted in Roaming is the podcast. You can get it on Apple, Spotify, and iHeart. It's also on YouTube now. And you can also come join us at Rooted in Roaming Facebook community. There's also a Facebook page and an Instagram page.
Amazing. We'll be sure to link that all up in the show notes below so you can listen to Tiffany's podcast. You can reach out to her or join the communities on Facebook and Instagram and all the socials. So, yeah, a massive thank you once again for coming on today, Tiffany.
Of course, thank you. I appreciate you so much, Johnny.
Thank you. So, that concludes our episode for today. And remember to lead with your heart and not with fear.